Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. I pulled into our driveway at 7:45 on Thursday evening, exhausted from 12 hours managing a conveyor malfunction at our Akron facility. All I wanted was a quiet dinner before collapsing into bed. Jennifer had other plans. She was waiting in the kitchen, laptop open, wearing pristine athleisure. Her determined expression meant she'd been thinking all day and was ready to deploy her conclusions. "We need to talk," she announced before I'd even set down my briefcase. I loosened my tie and headed for the refrigerator. "Can it wait until after I eat something?" I pulled out last night's leftovers and put them in the microwave while she continued. "I've been tracking our division of labor for the past month." She turned her laptop toward me, displaying a spreadsheet. "I handle 73% of household management tasks. You just go to work and come home." I paused. "Just go to work." I've been reading about invisible labor and mental load. There's a whole community discussing how women carry household burdens while partners focus solely on careers. She stood up, energized. "I'm proposing a week-long experiment. Complete role reversal. 7 full days." I turned to look at her, really look at her. She was absolutely serious. More than that, she was confident. She genuinely believed this experiment would prove her point about our supposedly inequitable arrangement. A teaching opportunity presented itself, and I decided to take it. "You want complete reversal?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "I take your responsibilities, you take mine?" "Every single thing." She crossed her arms. "I'll prove that what you call complexity is just you overcomplicating simple tasks. Management is management, whether it's a household or a company." I pulled my dinner from the microwave and sat down at the kitchen table. "Okay, 7 days. Starting tomorrow morning. But we commit fully. No backing out, no matter what happens." Her eyes widened slightly. She'd clearly expected resistance. "You're actually agreeing?" "Absolutely." I took a bite of reheated chicken. "But one condition. We both keep detailed journals. For reflection afterward." "Perfect." She smiled, confident again. "I want documentation of how I managed just fine." After dinner, I prepared the handoff materials. A 3-ring binder filled with everything Jennifer would need as Chief Executive Officer of our manufacturing company. Company organizational chart with my executive team. Active projects across 3 facilities. Crisis protocols. Financial accounts. Medical insurance. Upcoming deadlines. Strategic planning documents. Jennifer appeared around 10, watching the stack grow. Her confidence flickered. "Is all this really necessary? You wanted complete reversal." I added the Monday board presentation section. "This is what I manage as CEO. The board holds me accountable for everything from safety compliance to strategic vision." I listed the week ahead. Board presentation Monday. Contract negotiation Tuesday. Financial review Wednesday. Workers' comp hearing Thursday. Safety audit scheduled for this Friday, though I'd already prepared the documentation. Jennifer stared at the binder. "You'll teach me all this, right?" "You'll have the documentation. Same as I had when I started this job 8 years ago." I closed the binder and stood. "I've already briefed Tom about the experiment. He'll provide operational support. We should get to bed." Alarm goes off at 4:45. 4:45? In the morning? That's when I wake up every day. I set both our alarms. "You'll want time to review the crisis items before heading into the office. The Akron facility is still dealing with that conveyor issue." As we climbed into bed, I watched Jennifer's face in the dim light. She was beginning to understand that this might be more complicated than she'd imagined, but her pride wouldn't let her back down now. 12 years, I thought as I closed my eyes. 12 years of her assuming my job was simply being gone during the day while real work happened at home. Tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, her education begins. Not through argument. Through experience. The alarm shattered darkness at 4:45. I was instantly awake. Jennifer groaned and hit snooze. 7 minutes later, it rang again. She sat up, disoriented. 15 minutes later, she emerged wearing yoga pants and a blouse. "You'll want to review today's crisis items," I said. "The Akron facility conveyor malfunction. Tom calls at 6:15 with the overnight report." "It's not even 5, she mumbled. Page 7 of the binder covers today's priority issues. I settled back against the pillows. There's also the facility walkthrough at 8 for the safety audit. You'll need a hard hat. She turned to look at me, and I saw the first real flash of doubt cross her face. I thought I'd mostly work from your office. The safety auditor is coming specifically to inspect the manufacturing floor. As CEO, you need to be present. I paused. You might want to change. Yoga pants aren't exactly appropriate for a facility walkthrough. 20 minutes later, Jennifer left the house wearing a pair of my old khakis and a button-down shirt, carrying the overstuffed binder and looking considerably less confident than she had the night before. I made myself breakfast, reading the news at a leisurely pace. By 9, I'd completed Jennifer's daily tasks. Dishwasher, laundry, counters, vacuuming. Everything she claimed filled her mornings. With hours ahead, I tackled projects she'd mentioned for months. Fixed the garage door opener. Organized basement storage. Prepped meals for the week. At 9:47, my phone rang. Tom Winters, my VP of manufacturing. "Hey, Brian," he said, and I could hear the carefully controlled amusement in his voice. "Your wife is here. She arrived early and has been sitting in your office making calls for the past hour. The safety auditor arrived 30 minutes ago." "Put her on." There was a rustling sound, then Jennifer's voice, tight with stress. "These people expect me to know OSHA regulations. There's a clipboard with 47 items on it." "That's why I prepared the facility walk checklist," I said calmly. "It's in the blue folder. There are multiple folders, and I don't know which one. The one labeled Safety Audit September. Did you review the binder sections I flagged last night?" Silence. "Tell Tom to handle the walkthrough," I said. "You observe and sign off. That's why you have experienced people on your team. The key is knowing what to delegate and to whom." I'd spent years building a leadership team I could trust. Tom had been running manufacturing operations for 6 years. That's what made this experiment possible. I could afford a week away because I'd built systems and developed people who could handle the day-to-day operations. But Jennifer was about to discover that building those systems required years of strategic decisions, relationship management, and crisis navigation she'd never noticed. After I hung up, I smiled to myself. Jennifer had assumed delegation meant simply handing off work without understanding the context or expertise required. She was learning. The phone rang twice more that morning. At 11:23, a supplier called about a delayed shipment. Jennifer had no idea which project they were referencing. At 1:45, HR called about the workers' comp claim, needing my statement by close of business. Each time, I provided specific guidance while Jennifer grew more frazzled on the other end of the line. By 3:30, when a client called asking about delivery schedules and Jennifer couldn't access the production calendar, her voice had taken on a desperate edge. I spent the afternoon installing the floating shelves in our home office that Jennifer had wanted since spring, then started on an elaborate dinner. Braised short ribs, roasted vegetables, fresh baked rolls. The kind of meal that required attention and time, but nothing compared to managing a manufacturing operation with 200 employees. Jennifer's car pulled into the driveway at 6:45. I watched from the kitchen window as she sat there for a moment before getting out, moving like someone who'd aged 10 years in a single day. She trudged through the front door wearing borrowed coveralls instead of her nice clothes. Her hair was disheveled, and there were light smudges of machinery grease on her hands. She stopped in the doorway of the dining room, staring at the immaculate house and the elaborate dinner laid out on the table. "How did you have time for all this?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. I plated the short ribs with a practiced hand. "Your daily tasks took about 2 hours total. I had the rest of the day free. How was your first day as CEO?" Instead of answering, she sank into a chair and reached for the wine I'd poured while the meat rested. After a long drink, she finally spoke. "The auditor found 17 violations. Tom had to fix everything while I just stood there like an idiot. I had to approve a $3,200 emergency repair without knowing if that was even reasonable. Someone called about productivity metrics, and I didn't know what software to check." I nodded sympathetically while serving her plate. "Sounds like a standard Friday for me. Don't forget, you have the board presentation Monday morning. 9 o'clock. You're presenting third quarter operational results to 8 board members." Jennifer's fork clattered against her plate. "The board presentation. The slides are done, but you'll need to understand the numbers. They ask detailed questions." I took a bite of my dinner. Walter Simmons especially. He's the board chairman, former CEO of Alcott Manufacturing. Very detail-oriented. She stared at her plate, the food untouched. I could see her mind working, beginning to grasp the full scope of what she'd committed to. That night, she sat up until 11 reviewing the binder, growing more panicked as she read financial terms and operational metrics she didn't understand. When I offered to explain some concepts, her pride kicked in and she refused. As we finally turned out the lights, her alarm set once again for 4:45. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sympathy. The experiment had barely begun, and already the cracks in her confidence were showing. Day 2 would break them wide open. Saturday's alarm was equally brutal. Jennifer was more reluctant, body sore from the manufacturing floor. "There's ibuprofen in the cabinet," I offered. "Today's contract prep and board presentation review. Work on Saturday?" She looked genuinely confused. "Every Saturday. 6 to 8 hours. You've seen me in my office every weekend for 12 years. I thought you were just checking emails." By 6, Jennifer was in my office, surrounded by spreadsheets. I went grocery shopping, cleaned bathrooms, did yard work. At 9:15, my phone rang. "Jennifer," her voice edged with panic. "What does throughput efficiency delta mean?" I was in the produce section, examining tomatoes. Year-over-year change in units produced per labor hour. And they're expecting me to know this off the top of my head. Yes, the board members will ask follow-up questions. Walter Simmons especially. He always challenges operational metrics. I put 3 tomatoes in my cart. The definitions are in the glossary section of the binder. "This is impossible," she said, and hung up. I finished the grocery shopping, spending a fraction of what Jennifer typically did by following the meal plan I'd created and sticking to the list. Back home, I put everything away with military precision, then moved on to the next tasks on her list. At 11:30, my phone rang again. "Tom Winters. We've got an emergency at the Akron facility. Critical equipment failure. Production is completely stopped." Put Jennifer on. When she came on the line, I could hear machinery noise in the background and raised voices. "The main conveyor system collapsed. Completely broke. They're saying it can't be repaired." "What are the options?" "The equipment repair company says they can try to fix it for $8,500, but they can't guarantee how long it'll last. Or we can replace the whole system for $45,000. I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. A real decision with real consequences. "What do you think I should do?" Jennifer asked, her voice small. "I'm not the CEO this week." "You are. What does the client contract say about production delays?" I heard papers rustling. $15,000 per day in penalties. "What's the age and maintenance history of the equipment?" "I don't know. It's in the asset management database. Tab 14 of the binder." More rustling, then a long pause. "It says it's 14 years old. There have been 6 repair calls in the past 18 months. I said nothing, letting her work through it. The answer was obvious to me after 8 years of managing manufacturing operations. A 14-year-old system with increasing failure frequency was past its useful life. The repair was a gamble that would likely fail within weeks, resulting in the cost of both the failed repair and an emergency replacement. But Jennifer needed to make this decision herself. She needed to feel the weight of it. "I'm choosing the repair," she said finally. $8,500 is better than $45,000. Your call. Make sure Tom documents everything for the board." After we hung up, I sat there for a moment. She'd made the wrong choice. The cheaper repair would almost certainly fail, and we'd end up paying for both the repair and the replacement. But sometimes the most expensive lessons are the most valuable. I went back to my tasks, finishing everything on Jennifer's weekend list by 3 in the afternoon. I used the extra time to organize our tax documents, update our insurance beneficiaries, and plan the vacation to Cape Cod that Jennifer had been talking about for 2 years but never had time to actually book. When Jennifer finally came home at 7, she looked utterly defeated. She'd aged another 5 years in a single day. "How?" She gestured vaguely at the spotless house, the elaborate dinner I'd prepared, the organized office visible through the doorway. "How did you have time for all this?" I brought out homemade pasta with sauce I'd made from scratch, along with fresh bread and a Caesar salad. "Your tasks are demanding, but they're time-bounded. I finished them by mid-afternoon. Use the extra time for things you've been putting off." "What things?" "Remember that Cape Cod vacation you wanted? October 15th through the 22nd. Booked and paid for. Also updated our wills, scheduled the chimney sweep you've mentioned for 8 months, and organized the garage storage system. Jennifer sat down heavily. I don't understand how you do all of this. Because I have to. Because someone needs to carry the weight. I served her pasta. How did the board presentation prep go? She stared at her plate. I got through maybe half the material. There are terms I don't understand, metrics I've never seen, relationships between data points that make no sense to me. And Monday morning, you'll need to present that information to 8 highly experienced executives who will absolutely ask questions you can't answer. Please. She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. I'm asking you. I can't handle Monday's presentation. Let's end this experiment now. This was it. The moment she'd break or break through. Are you saying what I do is actually difficult? I asked quietly. That it requires expertise and experience? Yes, obviously. She was almost shouting now. This is torture. I thought I could just delegate and make high-level decisions, but every decision requires context I don't have. Every phone call is a potential disaster. I've made one major financial decision today, and I have no idea if it was right. 2 days ago, you said I just go to work and come home. You said your household tasks were more demanding than my job. I was wrong. Tears were streaming down her face now. I'm admitting it. Please, can we stop? I looked at her across the table, this woman I'd been married to for 12 years, and felt something shift. Not triumph exactly. More like the satisfaction of finally being seen. We agreed to 7 days, I said calmly. We're not even through day 2. Then help me. Tell me if I made the right decision about the equipment. I considered this. If I helped her now, she'd never fully understand the burden I carried. But if I let her fail completely at Monday's board meeting, the damage to my professional relationships could be significant. The equipment decision was wrong, I said finally. That system is 14 years old with increasing failure rates. The repair will likely fail within weeks, maybe days. Then you'll pay for both the failed repair and the emergency replacement, plus accumulated client penalties during the downtime. Her face went white. How much? Probably 80 to 90,000, all told. She stood up abruptly and walked to the window, her back to me. When she spoke again, her voice was hollow. Every decision I make costs us money. Every call I take reveals my ignorance. Every hour that passes, I feel the weight of 200 employees depending on decisions I'm not qualified to make. Now you're beginning to understand. She turned to face me. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Do you resent me? For not seeing all this? For taking it for granted? I thought about that question, really thought about it. I resent being diminished. Being told that what I do isn't valuable because it's not visible enough. But I don't resent you, Jennifer. I resent the situation we created together. She corrected quietly. I'm the one who kept score, who complained, who pushed for this experiment. And now you're learning. That's worth something. We stood there in silence for a long moment. Finally, Jennifer spoke. Can we modify the experiment? I still do your roles, but with your guidance? I'll still experience it, but maybe I won't destroy your career in the process. It was a reasonable compromise, and it showed growth. But I wasn't quite ready to let her off the hook. Let's see how Monday goes, I said. The board meeting will be instructive. After that, we can discuss modifications. That night, Jennifer stayed up until nearly 2 in the morning, frantically reviewing the presentation materials. I fell asleep to the sound of her muttering financial terminology to herself, trying to make sense of a world she'd never bothered to understand. Sunday morning, Jennifer woke at 5:30 despite the later alarm, anxiety-driven. I found her in the home office, surrounded by spreadsheets and notes, looking like she'd barely slept. I made a leisurely breakfast while she reviewed and re-reviewed the presentation. Around 9, I brought her a fresh cup of coffee and a new challenge. Your mother needs a specialist referral authorization. Insurance company denied the initial request. Appeal deadline is tomorrow. Jennifer looked up at me blankly. What? I've been managing your mother's healthcare coordination for 3 years. Since her diabetes diagnosis. I set down a folder of medical documents. Doctors prescribe treatment. Someone has to navigate the insurance approvals, prior authorizations, prescription coverage, specialist networks. That's been me. Why didn't I know this? I tried to involve you twice. You said medical stuff stressed you out and asked me to handle it. I tapped the folder. The appeal requires detailed documentation. Good luck. I left her there and went about my Sunday routine, which was Jennifer's Sunday routine. Deep cleaning the bathrooms, reorganizing the pantry, meal prepping for the week ahead. For the next 4 hours, I listened to Jennifer on the phone with various insurance company departments. Multiple transfers, long hold times, and increasingly frustrated attempts to understand diagnosis codes and treatment protocols. By 1 in the afternoon, she'd successfully submitted the appeal, but she looked like she'd been through a war. "How much time do you spend on this monthly?" she asked, appearing in the kitchen where I was fixing a leaky faucet. 8 to 12 hours. More when there are disputes. I tightened a connection. Healthcare navigation is basically a part-time job. Insurance companies deliberately make it difficult. That's not even in your work hours. When do you do this? Evenings. Weekends. Lunch breaks. She leaned against the counter, watching me work. What else don't I know about? I finished with the faucet and wiped my hands. Come with me. In my office, I opened my calendar system. Not just work meetings, but a comprehensive life management database. Birthday tracking for both families and key colleagues. Gift purchasing logs. Holiday planning. Home maintenance schedules. Vehicle service appointments. Medical appointments. Social obligation tracking. Jennifer scrolled through the spreadsheet, her eyes widening. You track 47 birthdays? Both families, friends, key colleagues. I track, purchase, wrap, and ship gifts. You sign cards. The maintenance schedules? HVAC quarterly, both vehicles, lawn equipment, all major appliances. Insurance policy renewals for 6 different policies. Subscription management for 14 different services. She kept scrolling. I thought I managed our social calendar. You manage yoga friend dinners and book club. I manage everything with professional or family obligation components. I pulled up another tab. This is Friday's charity gala. 30 people will be there, and you'll need to network effectively as the company CEO. I handed her a printed document. Background on each attendee. Names, spouses, recent career moves, topics to avoid, strategic conversation goals. Jennifer stared at the document. You prepare like this for a dinner party? It's not a dinner party. It's career management theater. These relationships are critical for maintaining board confidence and industry connections. She started reading. Robert Kowalski, major donor. Wife recently passed away. She looked up. I need to be careful with him. Very. Avoid anything related to family or personal loss. Keep conversation focused on the foundation's work. She was quiet for a long time. When her mother called that afternoon, asking for me to help with a prescription refill authorization, I watched Jennifer's face as she realized even her own mother didn't think she could handle the complexity. That evening, I showed her my long-term career planning. Not just my current role, but a map progression with timelines, skill requirements, and relationship-building strategies. In 7 years, I'm targeting expansion into regional operations, I explained, pulling up financial projections. Compensation could increase from $185,000 to over $400,000. Combined with your increased hours. I paused. You are planning to increase your hours, right? After this week? Absolutely. Combined with your increased contribution, we'll be at $550,000 annually within 10 years. I showed her the retirement projections. Full retirement at 58 with $4.2 million in assets. Jennifer's hands were shaking slightly as she looked at the numbers. This is an actual plan, with timelines and milestones. I've been working toward this for 6 years. Every late night, every weekend work session, every networking event. It's all strategic positioning for our future. And I've been resenting you for working late. Yes. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Genuine respect. What else? She asked quietly. What else have you been planning that I don't know about? I showed her the home purchasing research. 18 months of saved property searches, all in Shaker Heights. One property in particular, a 4-bedroom house on Woodland Road. That would be achievable in 3 years if my career progression stayed on track. You've been planning our dream house, she whispered. I've been making our dream house achievable. There's a difference between wanting and planning. That night, we had the first genuinely collaborative conversation about finances in our 12-year marriage. Jennifer asked intelligent questions, offered perspectives I hadn't considered, showed me that she could be the partner I needed when she was actually engaged. As we prepared for bed, The weight of Monday's board meeting hung over both of us. I'm terrified, Jennifer admitted. I'm going to fail tomorrow. I'll stand up there and they'll know immediately that I don't understand the material. Probably, I agreed. You're not going to reassure me? Why would I? It's true. You don't understand operational metrics. You can't answer their questions with any depth. You'll likely damage some professional relationships I've spent years building. Then why are you letting me do this? I turned to look at her in the darkness. Because this was your experiment. Your theory was that my job isn't particularly difficult. Tomorrow, you'll test that theory in front of witnesses. Monday morning felt different. The alarm went off at 4:45, but this time Jennifer was already awake, staring at the ceiling. We dressed in silence. She wore a professional suit, one of the few she owned from before she'd gone part-time. I dressed casually, my day-off attire. The drive to the manufacturing company headquarters was tense. Jennifer gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I sat in the passenger seat, reviewing emails on my phone, projecting calm. Tom Winters was waiting when we arrived at 8:30. His eyebrows rose when he saw me. Didn't expect to see you here, Brian. Supporting role today, I said easily. Jennifer's running point. We made our way to the boardroom. 8 board members were already seated around the massive conference table. Walter Simmons, the board chairman, sat at the head, his silver hair and sharp eyes missing nothing. Before we begin, Walter said as we took our seats, "Can you explain why your husband is joining us? These are typically closed board sessions." Jennifer cleared her throat. Her hands were shaking slightly as she placed her notes on the table. "I'd like to make a statement first, if I may." Walter gestured for her to continue. "My husband and I have been conducting an experiment this week, a role reversal to better understand each other's responsibilities. I proposed it because I believed I had a comprehensive understanding of what his role entailed." She paused, swallowing hard. "I was wrong. Substantially wrong. I'm here today because we committed to 7 full days, but I'm asking that Brian be allowed to remain as support, because frankly, I'm in over my head." There was a moment of surprised silence. Then Walter leaned back in his chair, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Interesting. Please proceed with the presentation." What followed was both painful and enlightening. Jennifer delivered the presentation competently enough, clearly having memorized much of it overnight. But when the questions started, the facade crumbled quickly. Diane Keller asked about capital expenditure variance in the Akron facility. Jennifer didn't know. I leaned in and whispered the answer, which she repeated verbatim. This pattern continued for 20 minutes. Board members asking technical questions, Jennifer unable to answer, me providing information sotto voce that she then relayed. Finally, Walter raised his hand. "Jennifer, do you actually understand the operational metrics you're presenting?" "No," she admitted quietly. "I've been learning them for 3 days. My husband has been managing these operations for 8 years. I couldn't possibly understand the depth of context in this timeline." Walter nodded slowly. "Let's discuss the Akron facility equipment failure. I understand there was a decision made on Saturday about repair versus replacement." Jennifer's face went pale. "I authorized an $8,500 repair. And the current status?" Tom Winters, joining via video conference, cleared his throat. "The repair failed yesterday afternoon. We're now looking at a $52,000 emergency replacement, plus approximately $30,000 in client penalties for extended downtime." The room was silent. Over $90,000 in costs because of a single decision made without adequate expertise. The failed repair alone had been $8,500 wasted. "Brian," Walter said, turning to me, "what would you have decided?" "Replacement." The equipment was 14 years old with increasing failure frequency. The repair was always a stopgap at best. "And you let Jennifer make the wrong call?" "She needed to experience the weight of consequential decisions. Now she has." I paused. "And I knew my leadership team could handle the operational execution once we made the replacement decision. That's why I've invested years in developing capable people." Walter studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Teaching moment. Expensive one, but effective." He turned to Jennifer. "Young lady, I think you've learned something valuable this week. Your husband has built an organization that can withstand a week without him at the helm. That's the mark of a strong CEO. But it also means he carries the strategic burden of every major decision, every relationship, every crisis that can't be delegated. Yes, sir, she whispered. The board excused us after another 15 minutes of discussion. As we walked to the parking lot, Jennifer was quiet, processing everything that had just happened. $82,000, she said finally. Because I didn't know what I was doing. It's a lesson, an expensive one, but the company will absorb it. How do you carry this weight? Every decision potentially being an $82,000 mistake. I unlocked the car. Practice, experience, and accepting that sometimes you'll be wrong, but you make the best call with available information. I want to go home. I can't do 3 more days of this. We sat in the car, engine running. This was the moment where we'd renegotiate the terms. The original experiment was about proving a point, I said. I think we've accomplished that. What was the point? That you've been measuring the wrong things. Counting visible tasks while missing the invisible complexity. Tracking hours while ignoring expertise. Comparing your part-time work and household management to my full operation of our entire life structure. Jennifer was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. I understand now. Can we please modify this? I still want to learn, but with your guidance? On one condition. This understanding becomes permanent. No backsliding in 6 months when the lessons fade. I will never forget this week. Never. Back home, I made the decision to show her something I'd been holding back. The full financial picture of our life together. On my laptop, I pulled up our comprehensive financial model. Investment accounts totaling $340,000. Home equity of $215,000. Emergency fund of $45,000. And 0 debt. We have $340,000 in investments? Jennifer stared at the screen. Started with $12,000 when we married. I've been managing allocations, rebalancing quarterly, tax loss harvesting. I pulled up another sheet. This strategy saves us about $3,000 annually in taxes. I had no idea we even had investments beyond your 401k. I showed her the next revelation. Remember your student loans? They're in forbearance, right? Or minimum payments. I paid them off. Completely. Year 9 of our marriage. Her hand flew to her mouth. That was $87,000. Bonuses, overtime, careful budgeting. I put every extra dollar toward them for 3 years. Skipped lunches, declined social events, worked extra hours for bonus money. Why didn't you tell me? I did. I told you I was paying extra on your loans. You said okay, great, and changed the subject. You never asked about progress or sacrifice. We sat there in silence, the weight of 12 years of unnoticed labor hanging between us. The rest of the week passed in a strange new rhythm. Jennifer continued attempting my roles, but now with my active guidance. Tuesday's contract negotiation went better. Wednesday's financial review was manageable. Thursday's workers' comp hearing, she handled almost entirely on her own. By Thursday evening, we sat down for a serious conversation about what came next. The 7-day experiment was officially complete. I need 3 things going forward, I said. First, respect for my work and the time it requires. No more resentment about late nights or weekend work. Second, genuine partnership in financial and strategic decisions. I'll teach you, but you have to engage. Third, acknowledgement when you slip back into old patterns, because you will. I will, Jennifer agreed. You're right. What do you need from me when that happens? Catch yourself. Admit it. Correct it. That's all. I can do that. We'll see. On Friday, the day after the experiment officially ended, I took Jennifer to tour the manufacturing facilities properly. This wasn't the stressful safety audit from day one. This time, she met the teams, saw the actual work environment, understood the scope of operations. Tom Winters pulled her aside at one point. Brian makes this look easy, he said quietly. It's not. That evening, we prepared for the charity gala together. Jennifer studied my briefing materials seriously, asking intelligent questions, retaining information. For the first time in our marriage, we felt like actual partners. As we dressed for the gala, Jennifer read aloud from her journal entry from day one. This will be easy. I'll show him that his complex job is just standard management with inflated self-importance. By the end of the week, he'll be begging to return to normal because he can't handle the real daily grind of household management. She looked up at me. I was so arrogant. You were confident, I corrected. There's a difference. Confidence without knowledge is arrogance. Confidence with knowledge is competence. The charity gala at the Cleveland Ritz-Carlton was Jennifer's final test. I watched as she navigated conversations using the briefing materials, impressing board members with her preparation and authenticity. She fumbled once, nearly bringing up a sensitive topic with Robert Kowalski, but recovered gracefully. In the car ride home, she was quiet but pleased. "How did I do?" she asked finally. "Better than expected. You recovered from the Kowalski situation well." I almost panicked. Then I remembered what you said about authenticity being better than perfect performance. Diane pulled me aside, said she saw genuine partnership between us. That kind of presence matters to the board. "So I helped your career advancement?" "For the first time, yes. This is what partnership looks like. I want more of this. The real partnership, not what we had before. Then we'll build it. Starting tomorrow, when you return to the yoga studio and I return to running the company normally. And in 3 months, we'll evaluate. 3 months. We'll see if this stuck or if it was just temporary learning." Later that night, as we lay in bed, Jennifer asked the question that had been hanging between us all week. "Do you think we'll make it? Actually make it as partners?" I thought about it honestly. I think we have a chance now. We didn't before. Because I understand what you do. Because you understand what we both need to do. Understanding my role was just the beginning. The real work is building something new together. I'm ready for that work. Tomorrow we'll see. 7 days. That's all it took to dismantle 12 years of misconceptions. Jennifer came into this week thinking she'd prove her point about equity and labor division. Instead, she discovered she'd been measuring the wrong things entirely. The formal experiment had ended Thursday, but tonight's gala had been the true final test. Tomorrow we'd return to our normal roles. The 3 months after would show if she could sustain this understanding. And the years ahead would show if we could build the partnership we should have had from the beginning. She called it a progressive experiment. It took 2 days for her to beg for it to stop. Turns out, reality doesn't care about theory. It only cares about what you can actually do when the weight is on your shoulders. Now she knew that weight. Now we could move forward. Or we couldn't. Time would tell. But for the first time in 12 years, I felt genuinely hopeful about our future. Not because everything was resolved, but because we'd finally started having honest conversations about what our partnership actually required. The experiment proved the point. Now came the harder part, making the understanding permanent. We'd reset the foundation. Whether we could build something lasting on it. That was the real experiment. And it was just beginning. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.